Hi, I'm Amanda Chase and I'm the coordinator for the job shadowing program, and today I'm going to be talking about how you can get ready for your job shadowing experience. So to start off, one of the things to think about is why you're doing this experience. Thinking about the new information you're going to get from a career field, you can narrow down whether this is a good career option for you. Even to find out if it's not a good match can sometimes be a good experience and a valuable use of the job shadowing program. You can get to understand a professional workplace and get more confidence in what that looks like. New contacts and a possible springboard for future job and internship. The people you speak with and your job shadowing experience might be your future boss, or they might know other people in this field who could be important contacts for you. And our other ulterior motive is that you're more familiar with the Career Center resources. You now have a resume and Catamount job link, and you know who I am. So if you ever need any assistance with any kind of career-related preparation, you can always contact me too. It's also good to think about why the alumni are hosting and what they hope to get out of this. So a lot of them are thinking about this as an opportunity to give back to UVM, and for some of them they've said it's something they wish they had when they were students here. The job shadowing program is relatively new, so most of your hosts did not get to experience this when they were students here. But you guys have that connection. You have slept in the same dorms, you've eaten at the same dining halls. They know what it's like to be here in Burlington. And you guys have that great connection there. It's kind of that warm, fuzzy, sentimental feeling. So it's a fun way to engage with younger people. It's also to help guide new professionals into their field and maybe even evaluate future employees or interns for potential spots. They can use this as an opportunity to generate interest in their field, to get the word out about their organization. One of the students at the pre-departure session this past week mentioned that it may even be so that alumni can help students get more opportunities and help them go on to greater success, which in turn even raises the value of everybody's UVM degree. So it's really helping everybody all around. So remember that in this job shadowing program, the ball is in your court. You are responsible for the logistics and the organization of this day. It's your responsibility to reach out to your job shadowing host and to initiate that conversation. And also keep in mind that your job shadowing host is there to help. They're experts in this field. They're there to help you succeed. So go in there being as prepared as possible, but also knowing that your job shadowing host is there to help you. So try not to be too nervous. Students who did this program last year, when I surveyed them for advice for future students in the shadowing program, they all said try not to be nervous. This can feel like an intimidating experience, but know that your job shadowing host is there for you. So because UVM alumni are taking time out of their busy days to host you, we do want you to act with professionalism, and these are some ways that you can do that. When you are communicating with your host, make sure that you follow up and respond quickly and respectfully. And when I say quickly, that usually means within 24 hours, responding to an email or phone call, even if it's to say, I can't have a conversation right now, but let's schedule something for in a few days. I have a test today or something like that. But letting them know that you've received their email is important so that you don't leave anybody hanging. I'd also suggest that you set up a time to talk with your host on the phone. You can introduce yourself that way. You know that it's a friendly voice on the other end of the line, and that gives you the opportunity to ask some good questions about what the day will look like and really start planning that too. It's good for you to also have some ideas about what you might like to see and experience on your job shadowing day. Your host will probably already have some ideas of what you can do, but if you have a specific area of interest or you want to see a particular project, that would be a good thing to mention to your host, because they could arrange for you to come on a certain day where there are certain activities happening, and they might be able to introduce you to other colleagues. So even if your host, say, isn't in the field of marketing, they may have a colleague who does marketing for the organization, and they may be able to spend some time with you during that day. So let them know if you have particular areas of interest. You're also expected to do some preparation for this shadowing day. You should, beyond having that initial phone call with your host, you should also be looking at the organization's website, looking them up in the news to see if anything's happening with them. You might also want to look up your host on LinkedIn to get a better sense of what their background is and what they do at their job. A student from last year shared that she had looked her host up on Twitter, and it gave her a really good in and a good conversation starter when she realized that she and her host had a lot of the same taste in music. So they ended up really hitting it off, and it was because that student had kind of done that preparation before going in on that shadowing day. So you're not expected to be an expert in this organization, and you're going to learn a lot more on this day, but having that cursory overview will also help things go more smoothly. When you do talk to your host on the phone, you should be asking them questions about the logistics. What time should you show up? What should you wear? For the most part, you should err on the side of business professional unless you're told otherwise. Business professional means dress pants or skirt, button-down shirt or blouse. It means no sneakers, no jeans, no t-shirts, no logos on the clothes that you're wearing. If you have any questions about what that looks like, you can talk with your host, or you can also contact me and I'd be happy to talk with you about it. Some organizations are also going to have very different dress codes. There are some students who might be doing soil sampling or scoping out bike paths, or doing some real hands-on work, or going into a physical therapy office. So obviously it's going to look very different depending on what your shadowing day looks like, so it's always good to clarify. If you're going into a major metropolitan area, it's also really important to do research on how you're going to get there, parking situations, what subway you might have to take, all of those nitty-gritty details that you may not know off the top of your head. So make sure that you ask. There's no question that's stupid or too small. Your hosts are there to help you with this, so don't be hesitant about throwing that out there. You should also bring with you perhaps a lunch. You can ask your host about that, or money to buy lunch. You should bring an ID in case you need to get that into the in case you need to get into the building. You should also bring a notebook with you, and there are a few different reasons for this. You should be prepping some questions to ask your host, at least 10 of them. On the pre-departure form that I'm sending you, on the right-hand side, I have a list of a whole bunch of different questions that you can ask your host. The best kinds of questions are qualitative questions. And what I mean by that are ones that generate stories instead of just asking for a number. If you were to ask a question like, how many people work here? Your host might just say 32, and then your conversation is over. But if you ask questions like, what's the most rewarding part of your job? Or how did you originally get into this field? It really gives your host an opportunity to engage with you and tell you more in-depth stories and really build that relationship too. So make sure you have at least 10 of these questions written down. You'd be surprised how quickly you might go through some of these, and some of them may be answered throughout the course of the day. So if you do have downtime, and you probably will at some point, you want to have some talking points and things that you can do to engage your host. It's best to over-prepare for your job shadowing day rather than have something that you wish you had set up beforehand. GPSs sometimes die, cell phone batteries go dead, you may lose reception as you go into a subway, so don't just rely on your phone or on a GPS to get you to where you need to go. Make sure you have hard copies of directions printed out, and you should also, on your notebook, have the name, address of the organization, your host's name, and their phone number, all of that written down. It's going to be really difficult to make things work if you walk into the building and you don't remember your host's name because your mind went blank. So make sure you have all of that information. Your host is going to be your go-to contact on the day of your job shadow experience. There's very little that I can do from Burlington to help you if you're lost on a subway in New York, or if you can't get in touch with your host. There's only so much that I can do to assist. You should also plan on arriving at least 30 minutes early to your location. You'd be surprised at what kind of traffic you might run into, or the subway might be running late. You never really know, so just make sure you allot some extra time and really be punctual too. You should also bring a copy of your resume with you. You've all had to put those together. And beyond those questions, written down in your notebook, the other purpose for the notebook is for you to take observations down throughout the day so that you can write about them in your thank you note afterward, and so that you can also write down the contact information for people you meet with. So if you end up talking with your host's colleague and spending a part of the day with them, you'll need to write them a thank you note too. So you're writing down names, contact information, and good things to remember about the shadowing experience itself. So remember that you are a representative of UVM. You're not expected to know everything going into this. You're not expected to have any experience beforehand, but we do want you to be curious, engaged, and professional. So remember that's being courteous and respectful to everyone you meet, from the front office staff to custodial and security services, all the way up to the president with whom you might meet. You are representing UVM. So remember to be on time, dress professionally. Those will all show your respect for this experience and your appreciation. Some of you might be observing confidential information at some point during your job shadowing experience. It might be observing a patient in a hospital or seeing financial records. Just make sure that you keep that confidential information to yourself, and your host may talk with you about this too. Any identities or identifying information shouldn't be shared. You can certainly talk about the job shadowing day in general. Also, don't go in with an expectation of an internship offer or a job. Sometimes that's happened in the past with job shadowing students. They have gotten some really cool opportunities out of this, but it shouldn't be an expectation. You can ask about this kind of thing by asking your host about how people get internship offers, or about successful candidates who go through their hiring process. So that's a way that you can ask about that too. So it is just one day, so try and make the most of it. Try not to be nervous, and remember that your host is there to help you. The other thing I want to share and encourage is the use of the UVM Shadow hashtag. And we'd really like people to take pictures and share their experiences with us on Instagram or Twitter so that we can see what kinds of great opportunities you're having. If you're in the Burlington area, we also have a marketing assistant who works here at the Career Center, and she's going to be asking people if she could take a picture of folks who are nearby at their job shadowing sites. So if that's something that you'd be willing to have Addie do, she's our marketing assistant, please contact her. I'll be sending her email address to you as well. And Addie takes beautiful pictures. It would be a great opportunity for you to have a new, very cool LinkedIn picture in a professional environment. These are some pictures of people who have done job shadows in the past. So we have folks at Burton, Westview Investment, which is here in Burlington, the Facebook headquarters in Washington, D.C., Fashion Institute of Technology, the Burlington Department of Parks and Recreation, and Lincoln Property Company, and they're overlooking the Back Bay in Boston. This also really demonstrates how different job shadows can look very different. Some of these are much more corporate looking, some of them are more casual. The student needed to wear steel-toed boots. This one obviously is wearing a construction helmet. Giselle probably had to dress to the nines to go and meet with someone at FIT. So it's good to ask about things like dress code when you're speaking with your host. After you're done with your job shadowing experience, we also want you to do some follow-up. That means sending a thank you note. There's a thank you note example on the back of that handout that I sent you. And beyond just showing your appreciation, the thank you note really shows your host what you learned and what you got out of the day. So be sure to mention some specifics about what you're taking from the experience and what your next steps are. You can also reach out to them on LinkedIn and continue that relationship. And it's good to drop them an email every few weeks or months and just say, hey, this is what I'm up to. I thought about the shadowing day, and you can keep that relationship going. I'm also going to send out an evaluation for the job shadowing program in January. Please, please, please complete that. It helps me make the program better, and it can help give feedback to your host about how to make the job shadowing experience better at their organization. I won't share information with your host unless you give me permission to do so. There's a box to indicate that on the survey. So we hope that you'll gain all of these different pieces from your job shadowing experience. Mentioned those before. And if you have any questions, please feel free to jump on our website, contact me by email. I'm away for most of winter break, but you can contact me beforehand if you have questions about preparing for the job shadowing day. So remember to use that hashtag, and I hope you have a great experience.